Thank you so much. One of the topics that's been popular amongst our group is the difference between acceptance and tolerance. And I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit as well.
Yeah. So obviously, tolerance is the first step. And it's a critical first step because we certainly need tolerance over intolerance. But the highest level is acceptance. You don't want to say, yes, I tolerate other points of view. I tolerate other races, other religions, other sexual orientations, people who vote in different ways. Ultimately, the goal is that we accept fully, open-hearted. And yet, spirituality is actually just as much about owning our no as owning our yes. And while acceptance of that we cannot change, right? It's the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And yet, along with that serenity, I think there's a reason that there are things that feel to us intolerable. Many of those things are things that internally we simply need to work with. First come to a place of tolerating, then come to a place of accepting. I don't like, fill in the blank. Work with it. It's an aversion. It's going to be an obstacle on your path. And yet, as a society that is looking to bring about Dharma, whether we use the word peace, whether we use the word light, whether we use the word love, whatever words we use to describe the society that we are looking for. And again, sustainability is a great word, but like tolerance, it feels to me like the beginning, not the end. I mean, yes, things should be sustainable, but ultimately you want them to be positive and flourishing and thriving, not just sustainable. And if someone says, hey, how you doing? You're like, sustaining. It's better than not sustaining, but it certainly wouldn't lead anybody to think that you're doing fantastically. Along with that, I do think there are things that as a society and as a community and as people committed to Dharma that we really do need to say, we will not tolerate certain things. Now, on a spiritual level, though, the question becomes, can I refuse to tolerate it? Logistically, pragmatically, can I work against it? Work to change it? And yet, accept it as the reality of the current moment, simply so that I can be in peace, I can sleep at night, I can eat my meals, because me being overtired, underfed, stressed out does not make me an effective and efficient agent of change. And I think it's a really important, it's not a balance, it's kind of a dichotomy here that we need to really be able to understand. Because spirituality doesn't mean that on every level we accept everything. There's violence, okay. I'm working on accepting it. No. Work on changing it. Work on accepting the current state, whatever it may be, in this moment so that you can be in peace in this moment and know that this moment is perfect, including your intolerance of the violence that is happening. You refusing to tolerate that violence is a perfect part of the perfection of the moment. And you allow that intolerance to fuel right action, but you accept it as the current state so that you can actually be a peaceful being bringing about peace. And it's a bit of a pendulum swing, although ultimately the goal is yes and. Yes, and I can lie in the beautiful ocean and meditate as the waves are supporting me and have a beautiful spiritual experience of oneness. And I can know that there are sharks in the ocean. Yes, and. I don't need to push away the sharks. I don't need to pretend that they don't exist. I don't need to kill them all. Yes, and. Yes, I can have a beautiful meditation. Yes, I can sleep at night. Yes, I can anchor and find a source, a well of peace, of joy that is not dependent upon current scene, act of this drama, but that drops deeper, that pulls from a well that is deeper than what's happening on the current stage. And simultaneously, I recognize my role on that stage and my role as one who is intolerant of that which is happening elsewhere on the stage. And therefore, in my next scene, I'm going to figure out how I get to mosey on over to here and see what I can do about what's going on over here. And so it's yes and. Acceptance should not be a license for a cop-out. It's not a license for complacency. We are called upon to act. And so we move from tolerance to acceptance on the deepest spiritual level, while we are simultaneously aware in our sacred human incarnation of the duties that we have, some of which are to figure out what is it I will not tolerate. Children dying of starvation while we produce enough grain to feed everybody on the planet is intolerable. The fact that we continue to tolerate it should be intolerable. We should not tolerate that. It's something we can do something about. And so we actually need to allow ourselves to feel that for the energy of action. It's the Mamnusmar Yudhyacha. Remember me. Remember it's all divine, it's all God. And fight the war. It's both. It's there is nothing but God, and I'm busy making sandwiches to feed the poor people in 2 hours. And it's all God, and all perfect. And here's the work I'm doing.